What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Never Lag. I'm one of your hosts, Levi, joined by the man who fell in the pit, Zach.
What's up, everyone?
And if you didn't know it, this is, soon it will be but right now this is This Week in Gaming, the show
This
where we
is,
bring
this
you the
was,
news.
this will ever be This Week in
This will.
Gaming.
Exactly. For 1 week it will be. This is This Week in Gaming, the show where we bring you the news, reviews, and hot takes from the past week in video games. So if you're all about it, you can support us over on Patreon at patreon.com/neverlag. Or, of course, you can support us for completely free right here by watching on YouTube, doing all the fun stuff, clicking all the buttons, subscribing, commenting, all of that, and listening wherever you get your podcasts from. So enough evangelism. Is that a word?
It is a word.
Evangelization.
It is a word.
Let's stick with. Okay, we'll go with evangelism. Anyways, this week in gaming, we have every time I count and every time I forget, 10 stories. We'll say 9.5. I'm going to say 9.5 stories. Starting with, of course, story number 1. Elden Ring is doing okay. Zach, I don't know if you heard, but this game that just came out apparently has sold 12 million units in quicker than a month. It hasn't even been a month.
It's the number one story
from
for a reason. I think it deserves its spot here at the top.
Pretty crazy. So this is coming from Adam Bankhurst at IGN. There it says, Elden Ring is off to an incredibly strong start as it has already sold 12 million copies worldwide since its February 25th release date. From Software and Bandai Namco shared the news in a press release stating that Elden Ring has sold more than 1 million copies in Japan alone and 12 million copies worldwide as of March 14th, 2022. These sales are derived from distribution figures of the package version and sales figures of the downloadable versions. End quote. And then later in the IGN article, they give some points of reference here for comparison. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice sold 2 million copies in 10 days. Bloodborne, which was a PS4 exclusive, sold over 1 million copies within 2 weeks of its launch. That was back in 2015. And Dark Souls 3 was Bandai Namco's fastest selling title in its history, and it sold over 3 million copies about a month after its worldwide release in April 2016. So anywhere from 1 to 3 million was kind of what they were batting, and here we've got 12 million well within their first month here. This is pretty surprising, pretty astonishing, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, on the conservative end, we're looking at 4 times larger of a release in terms of like first month sales, if not more, which is fantastic. I think we expected Elden Ring to sell better than previous FromSoft games, but I don't think we expected like 4x, 5x what it sold. I was kind of expecting maybe 2 times what Dark Souls 3 had done, looking at 5-6 million or so, but hitting 12 million in the first month is pretty great.
Yeah, I mean that's
not even a month.
Some games,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, a lot of games are happy to hit the 10 million mark. Like that is an excellent statistic, and we're talking years after release sometimes. So, I believe I read not long ago. I don't remember the source, so I can't source it. But FromSoft, they were expecting to sell, I think it was around 5 or 6 million in the first month. So they were expecting to double their best ever with Dark Souls 3, but here they are quadrupling it. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know if we can call this a niche genre anymore. It seems more so like FromSoft have just transformed the third person action combat across all genres, and
yeah, I think you can argue at this point they've broken into mainstream with Elden Ring. I'm sure it's on the more challenging end of the mainstream like player base. Like Elden Ring is a pretty difficult game in certain areas, but the way they've built it has added a lot of approachability. I think the open world helps a lot. People are drawn to open worlds. I know we always say everyone's fatigued with them, and I think gamers in some ways are, but we're also drawn to them still. So I think taking something like open world and then refreshing it through a variety of ways, is a selling point. I also think the greater amounts of options you have, both in terms of build, weapon choices, and different paths you can take, adds for a lot of player choice, which helps hit a larger market. And then I also think because you can go so many different routes and experience bosses with so many different types of weapons and builds, it lends itself to be very memeable. Like upload a clip to TikTok of you having a hilarious encounter with a boss. I've seen like a lot of clips on Twitter, TikTok, and other places of people playing and experiencing this game as a community, which sometimes is dangerous for spoilers, but is pretty cool. And I think it's kind of injected this game into the zeitgeist versus like when Dark Souls came out. I remember I wasn't playing it at the time, but I remember hearing about it. It was a relatively good sized game, but it was still kind of niche and within a certain group of gamers versus just being all across the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if we can really describe FromSoft and their titles as niche at this point, but you kind of hit on something. I think is that in this day, um, sharing video games, watching people play video games is um, such a it's becoming a mainstream piece of entertainment, right? And I think FromSoft games are maybe one of, if not the best pieces of content for doing this with, right? Because you, like you said, you have the meme capability, or just watching people die and be bad at games, or even that's fun. Watching people be incredible at FromSoft games is also fun. It's just very watchable as well as it is fun to play. So anyways, congrats to them. That's pretty nuts here. And we'll see if they can continue to build on that. But man, it wouldn't be shocking to see this break the 20 million mark, maybe even approach the 30 million mark at some point, which is kind of where Nintendo first party IP lives. And um, usually just them. There's not many games that reach that type of echelon. So pretty
Yeah,
nuts.
it's exciting.
Okay. Yeah. So for story number 2, we have some news regarding no EA Play event. So normally they have their event in, I think it's normally in June. It usually coincided with E3 back in the day, but they have since announced that despite going digital for the past 2 years, they will not be holding an event this year. This is coming from Kat Bailey at IGN as well. And it says, quote, in another blow to an already uncertain summer events season, IGN can reveal that EA will not be hosting its traditional EA Play event this year. Instead, the publishing giant will be revealing more about its projects, quote, when the time is right for each of them, end quote. An EA representative shared the following statement with IGN. We love EA Play Live as it's our way of connecting with our players and sharing what's new with all of you. However, this year, things aren't lining up to show you everything on one date. We have exciting things happening at our world-class studios, and this year we'll reveal much more about these projects when the time is right for each of them. We look forward to spending time with you throughout the year.
When
End
I
quote.
first heard
So,
this headline, I thought the name of the event was No EA Play Event. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I can't wait to learn what that's about. I'm disappointed. This is less exciting.
uh, on
It's
many
EA though,
levels,
so I don't really
perhaps you're
care.
disappointed. Yeah. So, I don't know about you. My takeaway from this is um, I think we just continue to kind of not squander, aimlessly wander through um, what used to be E3 season. And Jeff Keighley has his summer game fest and kind of tried to rein everybody in with some sort of organization.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's just kind of sad to see. They say things aren't lining up to show you everything on one date, right? And unless you have a really good reason to do so, things are never going to line up to show everything on one date, right? You have to be kind of forced into a block of time for that to happen. Otherwise, it never will just happen accidentally. And so it's just a bummer because I don't know. I can't speak for everyone, but for me, getting a piece here and there throughout spring and summer, and it just feeling kind of drawn out and um, just less of an event, right? Less less of an occasion is just inherently less exciting to me. And that just kind of seems like where we're headed across the board, especially this year. E3 has no word on any event at all, be it digital or otherwise. And this just may be kind of what we're going to get this year and for the foreseeable future until we can get something resembling E3 back, back to reality.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like we've seen a little bit of a decentralization where various studios and publishers will go kind of host their own slightly smaller event, and some of those are better than others. They kind of are all over the place, and I don't think there's a ton of consistency right now. But in general, I think it is a little less exciting when you don't have it as kind of this momentous event, like almost a holiday in the middle of the year where everyone comes together for a full week and talks about video games. It feels like a lot of progress. It feels like you're being, roped into video game history in the making. Whereas this just feels more like your standard marketing. Oh, there's a new trailer for something, which I mean, there's obviously can be exciting here and there, but it's interesting too that they kind of, it doesn't seem like they imply that they're going to have an event as much as, what does he say? We look forward to spending time with you throughout the year. It kind of hints at this
Yeah.
idea of just a drip feed of information when they have it, which is inevitably less exciting. So I guess we'll see. I wonder if things stabilize in the next few years, are we able to pull together some type of E3 like situation, or has that ship kind of sailed? Is that a bygone era?
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. I don't think it is. I think people really crave that. I think it's very hard to keep the hype over the course of like 3 or 4 months or even year round at this point, it feels like, where studios are just kind of doing whatever they want and releasing trailers whenever they can. Um, which, on the plus side, that's probably less work for them to try and crunch and get ready for a specific date in early summer. But from the consumer side, I think a lot of people kind of have a hard time maintaining that hype throughout the year or excitement for these things. It's when you have one solid week of just video game party where we get trailers and everything announced.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of excitement tied to that. So yeah, you're totally right. This doesn't sound like an event. It sounds kind of like what we've been experiencing from most publishers for the past couple years. So, all right, story number 3. Bit of a sad story here. Um, the Initiative, which is a large studio, um, Microsoft studio, appears to be in trouble. Now, this is from VGC, and it's an article entitled "Insiders Describe Fast and Furious Exits from Xbox's Perfect Dark Studio." So, the Initiative, they were working on Perfect Dark, and there's a little bit here, but I'll go ahead and read it from VGC. It says, as much as half of the core development team known to be working on the upcoming Perfect Dark reboot quit the company during the last year, or around 36 people, analysis of employee LinkedIn profiles has revealed. That includes most of the Initiative senior design team, including game director Dan Newberger, design director Drew Murray, lead level designer Chris O'Neill, principal world builder Jolion Myers, 2 senior system designers, a group of 3 former God of War designers, and more. And the turnover of top talent doesn't end in design. Perfect Dark's 2 most senior writers also recently quit. Analysis shows, along with the project's technical director, tech art director, lead gameplay engineer, lead animator, QA lead, and more. The timing of the departures coincides with the September 2021 announcement that Crystal Dynamics had been signed to co-develop Perfect Dark. Interviews with multiple former senior developers cited a lack of creative autonomy and slow development progress as the reason for their departures, and described the wave of exits as fast and furious, with project momentum said to be heavily affected. So there you have it. It's never great to hear. Zach, are you
Yeah.
are you worried about the Initiative? What do you take away from this?
I mean, it's always a bummer. I don't know a whole lot about their studio. I played a little bit of Perfect Dark as a kid on the N64, and so there's a little bit of nostalgia there, but it was never a game I heavily played. I know some people really look back and appreciate that game. So I'm sure some people are pretty sad about this. Uh, I mean, it's, I guess we'll see what happens. Like we don't have any confirmation that it's falling apart, But that's a pretty big signal when your game director, your design director, your lead level designers, principal world builders, system designers, and writers, and engineers, and basically across every aspect of the team, a lot of these people are leaving. Like that's a pretty bad sign. It seems like a management issue from what they're saying. So hopefully they get that figured out. You said that the initiative is a Microsoft studio.
Yeah, I believe so. They were what's the word I'm looking for? Created a couple
Mm.
years ago, and they were actually whether or not this was a typo is up for debate, but they were marketed as a quadruple A studio,
Ooh.
which got everyone talking. Whatever the heck a quadruple A studio is,
How many
but
A's is that out of 10 A's, 5 A's?
yeah, right. Out of
Sure.
20 A's, no.
What's the
So yeah,
scale? Yeah.
it's exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
So
let's hope
yeah,
Phil Spencer or Satya Nadella can swoop in here, and maybe my that was going to be my first quip, is like maybe Phil Spencer can swoop in here and help. But if this was created as a Microsoft studio, I don't know what to say. That's that's not good.
no, yeah, it makes you wonder what's going on here, and it's a bummer. Games are really hard to make, and um, kind of makes me think. Uh, you look at Sony and how they have developed in house a lot of their studios and really tried to home grow them, and maybe this is a bit of the peril we're seeing here of Microsoft trying to buy these studios and make them bigger, or make a studio and just say, hey, go make this game, do whatever you want, make this game. That doesn't always work. So I don't know. There's a lot of conjecture here. We don't know exactly how bad this is, but man, when there's smoke, there's usually fire, and you kind of hate to see it because, um, anytime this much effort, energy, and money is put into something that maybe doesn't come out and isn't that great, is always a bummer with how long it takes to make video games. So hopefully they can get their stuff figured out, get some good direction and some good leadership over there, and get back on course. All right, so yeah, we're gonna do a little bit of a review roundup here, starting with number 4, Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin. How did you feel about this game? Is this one you were looking at?
Um, I'm not super close to this one. I enjoy Final Fantasy, but I tend to kind of go on a game by game basis. So this is one that I probably won't be picking up. It seems like they're leaning into kind of Souls-like combat, which I know everyone says that about literally every game ever these days, but it seems like they're really leaning into like difficult combat where you have to learn the patterns. So that's kind of interesting, but I'm not like particularly called out to by this game, and it sounds like other than the combat, it's kind of lacking in some ways. So probably a pass for me, but curious what you think about it.
Yeah, it just looks really weird from what I can tell. It looks like they're whether it's Souls like or it's Final Fantasy, whatever draws you to it, it looks like they are really leaning into just being a weird game. So for good or bad, I guess. It's sitting at a 71 on Metacritic right now. Open Critic 74. And then a couple reviews here I pulled from Andrew Rayner at Game Informer, who gave it a 7 out of 10. He says, Stranger of Paradise is the strangest Final Fantasy game yet, bounding wildly between awful and fantastic. If you can tolerate Jack, and that's a big ask, the excellently crafted combat is worth a look. You may be coming to this game for the story and Final Fantasy experience, but it's all about combat and little else. And then John Bayless, don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, over at Games Radar, gave it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. And he says, there's a half decent time to be had bashing your way around Stranger of Paradise's dungeons, but routine level design, rough edges, and messy narrative delivery stop the experience evolving into a compelling adventure. Despite its efforts to create ordered systems, chaos has the final word, which is a play on, if those of you who don't know this game, the protagonist Jack during the demo mentioned his quest to kill chaos like 400 times. It was like the only thing he would talk about.
Chaos.
Chaos.
Chaos Shrine. Chaos.
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 Chaos. Chaos. Chaos. Chaos. Chaos. Chaos. Chaos. Chaos. Chaos. Chaos.
Chaos. He was very adamant that he needed to kill chaos. So yeah, it's kind of what I expect. Honestly, I expected worse. I expected worse than 71, 74. So good for this game to be hitting the 70s, the mid 70s. I guess what you could say about it is it looks to be very interesting, right? Better than a boring game. At least it's very
Yeah.
interesting and bizarre. So if any of that sounds like it's up your alley, it is made by the people who made Neo, so the comparisons to a Souls-like game are fairly apt. And Neo is pretty beloved for its combat, so it makes sense that people are describing the combat as excellently crafted. All right, so our fifth story here, another review roundup we have, is for Tunic, which is a long awaited indie game, I believe made by one person. I'll have to verify that, but it's sitting at a Metacritic of 85, as well as an OpenCritic average of 85. Over at IGN, Ryan McCaffrey gave it a 9 out of 10. He says, Tunic is an unapologetically challenging action-adventure game that is charming, multi-layered, and immensely rewarding to solve. Richard Wakeling over at GameSpot also gave it a 9 out of 10. He says, Tunic harkens back to the 16-bit era with a challenging adventure full of discovery and wonder. So this game's crushing it, which is great to see, man. This game was in development forever, and it had me a little bit worried, but here it is coming out swinging, and it looks like everyone's really enjoying it.
Yeah, it's looking good. I mean, it's been at least since 2015 that people have been talking about this, so I'm glad to see it come out and be successful. You always worry when things get prolonged in development, but it looks pretty cool. I feel like my excitement level for this has waned just a little bit. I think there's just been a lot of games recently, but it looks good. I mean, the good reviews have me excited, so I'm sure I'll be picking this up at some point. I'm not rushing to get it just this moment, but it's good to hear.
Yeah, good for Tunic. I'm glad it's hitting well, and then also I've been hearing that it has its challenging moments, as was mentioned here in Ryan's review. Um, some of the boss fights and different things, I hear they've been kicking people's butts. So it's kind of, I like to hear that. This game looks very cutesy, um, and I'm glad to hear that it has some challenging and rewarding puzzles. It sounds like I've been hearing good things about. There's some sort of manual, which is a gameplay mechanic in the game where you find pages of this manual, and it's written in a language you can't understand, and it's um, very minimal in its description, but it just kind of gives you little clues towards what to do in the world or how to interact with certain things. And a lot of people have really been enjoying that. It's definitely got some cool things here. I'm not a huge fan of the Link's Awakening art style, which is what this is getting compared to a lot. Also giving me a lot of um, Death's Door vibes, which I enjoyed Death's Door a lot, but I didn't love the art style either. I kind of would love to get some of these games that are like these games, but with some different art styles going on. So, and I'm sure there are some out there, but all that aside, yeah, I'm looking forward to checking out Tunic. Yeah, I probably won't get it right now, but I'm going to keep my eye on it because these isometric action adventure games, these Zelda likes, I'm definitely down for. Okay, story number 6. We're jumping into the state of play that happened earlier on Thursday. State of play focused on Hogwarts Legacy. And did you get a chance to watch this state of play?
I did. I was kind of impressed. I was expecting this game to be a complete. I
Totally.
mean,
Yep.
well, who knows for sure? But they showed quite
Yeah.
a bit, and it looks pretty good. Anytime you take a major franchise like a movie series or a book series, the odds of it translating well to a game are just not super high. I mean, it can happen, but um, I just didn't expect this to be good. It looks pretty dang good. The environments feel very immersive. For anybody who has enjoyed Hogwarts, whether it's from the film series, from the books, I think you're gonna love it. It looks like a fully realized version of this school and the surrounding wilds. It's set in the 1800s, so you have a little bit an older feel to some of the, I think, goings on in the world, but cool creatures. The combat looks really interesting. There's a lot of mystique to Hogwarts in terms of finding secret passages and using your abilities and spells to unlock places and whatnot. I'm impressed, and I'm actually keeping an eye on this. Like, this hasn't really been on my list because I expected it to be terrible, but I have to say I'm keeping an eye on this thing now. So what do you think?
Yeah, I'm I'm genuinely irritated at this game because this is not. I've never been um, a Harry Potter fan; just hasn't been my thing. And this was really impressive. We heard this announced. Was it last year or 2020? I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And this
Yeah, it's
felt
pretty
like one
good
of
too.
those games. This felt like one of those games that was going to just get delayed and delayed, and who knows if it's ever going to come out. Or that's what it felt
Right,
like.
right.
And this state of play really kind of just showed off. It was very impressive. Like you said, the
Yeah.
environments, the graphics, the attention to detail everywhere. The fact that Hogwarts itself seemed so incredibly detailed. It felt like a very um, it felt like the kind of detail you would see even in next gen, the kind of detail you would see in a more focused linear type of game
Mm-hmm.
that's more compact. But then they showed off some of the traversal in the open world and how you're flying around this massive open world. um, I'm genuinely shocked at how good this looks. Hopefully for those who are looking forward to this, it launches in a good state and it makes good on what we saw today. But yeah, just irritated because I'm like, how many IP have been promised and just botched, completely botched in video games. And here, what is this? Hogwarts Legacy is coming out looking just better, almost better than advertised. So
Yeah, and I'm
very
sure
impressed at the scope and everything.
there's a lot of Harry Potter fans who no doubt are going to be thrilled about this. So happy for everyone who's been invested. Like I said, I kind of wrote it off when I heard about it. So yeah, I understand what you mean. And hey, hopefully this helps set a good example for some of these other developers and studios about this is how you announce a project and then a year or two later follow up with some significant showcasing of the game and the footage. I feel like their timing of announcement and starting to reveal more and show more of the game has been at a really great cadence. So let's hope they stick the landing.
Yeah, I was looking up. So it's developed by Avalanche Software. Just trying to see really quick what else they've done because I can't think of it off the top of my head. But anyways, man, I'm very impressed. I'll have to look into it and see if they've made other things before this that kind of could have led us to the conclusion this would be looking this good.
Yeah.
But very impressed with what we saw today. So story number 7, we're going to jump into a very brief recap of the Xbox Indie Showcase, which took place on, I believe, Wednesday, and was a couple hours long. They showed off some new indies. This was focused on new indies coming out soon, and I'll run down the list here, and then maybe we can speak to one or two that kind of caught our eye. First is Chinatown Detective Agency, then Crusader Kings 3. There was a brief video, some more about Tunic. Cursed to Golf, which was like was it 8-bit, 16-bit kind of like golf arcade game, arcade golf. Flintlock, The Siege of the Dawn. Um, Clash, Artifacts of Chaos, which that one looked interesting. That was like a 3D brawling game almost. Floppy Knights, Immortality, an interactive movie trilogy. Lost Eidolons, Shredders, Trek to Yomi. We saw more of that. Void Train. That looks pretty cool. Whalefall, WrestleQuest, Paradise Killer, Kraken Academy, Citizen Sleeper, and Beacon Pines. So, wow, what is that, like between 16 and 20 indies they showed off there? Quite a
Mm-hmm.
spectrum too. There was some If you have a minute, you can go look. IGN has a very brief recap of these
Yeah.
videos.
We'll link it in the description.
That'll kind of give you an idea of each of them. But is there one or two of these that kind of caught your attention?
Yeah. Flintlock looks weird. I want to know more about that because it's kind of a 3D fantasy world. Seems like kind of a dark fantasy with a little bit of modern elements with, I guess, Flintlock, right? So there's some type of gun mechanics at play there, assumedly. So that looks kind of interesting. Void Train, I think, looks kind of interesting. I don't know. I guess I'm going to kind of wait and see. This was a very eclectic mix. It feels like. Anything calling out to you?
Yeah, it really was. Void Train, I thought looked very interesting. If I'm recalling correctly, I think this is the second time we've seen Void Train. Its art style reminds me a little bit of Remnant from the Ashes, which was a kind of a double A Souls-like game. Although this gameplay wise does not remind me of that, but looks very I guess sci-fi fantasy. I don't know. I think you're taking a train into various dimensions or different places to do who knows what. But it looks like fun. We saw more of Trek to Yomi, which I think continues to look great. Tunic obviously is out and seems to be great. Chinatown Detective Agency I thought looked kind of cool. Kind of like a RPG, like 16-bit RPG detective type game. It looks to be mostly side scrolling. That one looks pretty fun. Flintlock I thought looked really cool, but we need to see more. We didn't really see any gameplay of that. We just kind of have to take their word for what the gameplay will be like. And that was mostly it. Shredders looks like fun. Always down for a good snowboarding game, but I feel like I got my fix pretty recently with
Riders
what
Republic.
was you?
Same.
Riders Republic. All I could think of was Outriders. I'm like, that's not it. Riders Republic.
Not
So
quite.
this looks to be a more focused experience on strictly snowboarding and a little more realism and less chaos. So maybe that'll be enough. But yeah, very very eclectic mix here. But it's great to see. It's always great to see these indie showcases. I mean, the indie scene is really where we're seeing usually the most innovation on video games. So love to see it thriving. Story number 8. A brief one here, but Tiny Tina's Wonderland will have full crossplay. And this we're just pulling from Twitter. Randy Pitchford tweeted this out. It says Tiny Tina's Wonderlands will ship on March 25th with full crossplay for all platforms at launch, including PlayStation. So you love to see it, right?
Always a good thing to hear. I think we need more of this. So good work. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I'm not sure who develops that, but good work.
Good work, Randy. Good job,
work,
Randy.
Randy.
Yeah, and including PlayStation, right? PlayStation have been
Yeah.
sticklers for this, and it's been so frustrating to watch them be kind of the last domino that refuses to fall when it
If
comes to so many
PlayStation
of
wants
these
to get with
crossplay.
the times regarding predatory monetization practices, then they need to get with the times regarding crossplay being a kind of a
Exactly.
baseline. So
You can't pick and choose.
that's right.
Ugh. Anyways, yeah, it's great to see, and you hopefully we see more of this. We are starting to see more and more of it, but it is still not infrequent that we see titles come out and not offer crossplay, and it's just like, what are we doing here?
Mhm.
We need more of this. So good job, Randy. Story number 9, Super Nintendo World set to open in 2023, and I put a question mark after that because we'll see, right? But Nintendo.com, we're pulling this. It says, mark your calendars. The first U.S. Super Nintendo World is set to open at Universal Studios Hollywood in 2023. And then a little bit of a description. The immersive land will be a visual spectacle of vibrant colors and architectural ingenuity located within a newly expanded area of the theme park, featuring a groundbreaking ride and interactive areas to be enjoyed by the whole family. Themed shopping and dining will enhance the entire experience and put money in our pockets. No, I just added the last part there. But yeah.
I love that it
do you
says
think
mark
this
your
hits 20
calendars. I love that it says mark your calendars and it gives you an entire year. So just all of
Yeah, March
2023.
2023.
Just put a line through every single month saying Nintendo World.
So Zachary, are you marking 2023 or
Oh
or do
yeah.
you think this doesn't come out?
I've quit my job. This is my
Y-
calendars are marked. Now, I I don't know. I mean, I would imagine with a theme park announcement, you have to be somewhat more sure of your operational deadlines. Like this isn't like a video. I don't know. Maybe it's harder to plan. I
I think it's
honestly have no
harder.
idea. I also don't know how long they've been planning this. If they've been working on this for 5 years, then maybe I'm confident they can have it ready next year. Did they just start working on this a year ago? There's not enough information for me to like make a prediction here. Um, but this is interesting. I mean, it makes sense. They have like Universal Studios and Disney World type stuff for a lot of the major franchises, but I'm really curious what a 3D Nintendo World looks like because you think about Mario, you think about Goombas, you try and make those more lifelike and it gets real
It's
uncanny
real,
valley
real.
real quick. Um, but I don't know. What does a dining experience look like in Super Nintendo World? Like I don't even know. Are you just eating like mushrooms?
I'm sure they'll figure that out for us, but it does sound interesting. I tried to find a quick search for. It looks like the first concept image, which doesn't really help. Um, oh wait. Construction began in 2017. I don't
All
know.
right.
That's your homework. You get to go find this out,
Five
and
years
you can
ago.
report back. You can go report back to us when
I
they
will
started, and
fly
if you
to Los
believe.
Angeles. I'll fly to Los Angeles, sneak in. Um, yeah, some of the pictures I'm finding in a quick Google search are almost a little
That
unsettling.
sounds
So,
that sounds terribly efficient. What a very efficient way to find out when they started working
yeah,
on it.
exactly.
Buy a plane ticket. Okay. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, if it comes out in 2023, we are seeing the world start to get back to normal. We'll see if that continues, and if we're going to be flying to California for Super Nintendo World next year. I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it. Story number 9.5, aka story number 10, is Patch Watch,
Patch
which
watch.
I can. Yeah. What is it? Patch Watch.
Do do
I
do
just
do
kept
do
going.
do do.
Yeah, no, I kept going because I was like, wait, this sounds like Mario. I got to keep going until it sounds like something else.
Now we're
Every
gonna
week
get a
we're infringing
lawsuit.
on something new.
I
Yeah.
know.
We need to sit down and really crack this Patch Watch jingle out. But this is where I complain about Horizon Forbidden West's new
Our
patch,
weekly segment.
1.0. Yeah, patch 1.08 came out a few days ago and it fixes a bunch of stuff. But the headline is: the team are continuing to investigate and tweak the reported graphical issues regarding shimmering, sharpening, and screen saturation. And the investigation is ongoing, it would seem. So this is really just becoming a meme, honestly. Like every time you check, people are like, patch 1.09 leaked, and it's the exact same quote, like, we are continuing to investigate. So anyways, just
I'm just
frustration.
imagining. I'm imagining 5-6 years from now, they make an announcement that they are winding down support of this game because we're moving on to new generations. And they say, we're sunsetting this project. It's been a lot of fun. Also, the team is continuing to investigate the reported graphical issues regarding shimmering, sharpening, and screen saturation. And that's the last thing we ever hear.
That would be so
Poetic.
infuriatingly poetic that I couldn't help but respect it, honestly.
Yeah.
But I was scrolling Twitter, as you do when you're frustrated with something. You want to find commiseration, right?
Yeah. You
And
jump into the
someone
cesspool when you're feeling
the
frustrated.
cesspool, and someone on Twitter was mentioning, like, just tell us if you can't fix this. Like, tell us what is going on, because the longer that you say this exact same phrase and nothing gets fixed, you just create resentment with your community, which is
Mm-hmm.
totally true. I'm like starting to resent Gorilla, because I'm sitting here waiting and they keep saying the same thing week after week, and it's like
Yeah.
people commend them on their communication, and it's like, this is not communication. Like, tell me if
It's,
I'm
yeah.
waiting with in vain, or if it's going to be, we don't know, this could take 3 to 6 months, then maybe, I can resolve to wait 6 months, or I can just, people can decide to give up and play it in the state it's in right now. So
Yeah, it's kind of
I'd
this
love to
political
see.
speak of talking about everything else in the patch unrelated to the biggest issue that everyone's worried about.
Yeah,
At this point, like, just give us a sense of magnitude. Like, don't say we're continuing to look at it. Say, we think this is going to take us a couple of months, because then
exactly.
people can wrap their heads around what should they
Yeah,
expect. Or if you aren't planning to fix this, rip the Band-Aid off and say, hey, based on how we built this game from the ground up, we don't really think we can fix this issue in a satisfactory way. I mean, that you take some heat initially, but at least it rips
totally.
the Band-Aid.
That's where I'm at. So I hope patch 1.09, I'm not even hoping they fix it, because I just don't believe they will by the next small patch. But I hope they can more accurately communicate what is going on and why it's been a month and why they haven't been able to resolve this, and some clarity on that, so that I can move on with my life. I've just been sitting here for weeks just checking Twitter every 2 minutes.
It's really sad. Guerrilla Games, please put this man out of his misery. Give us an update.
Save me. Oh, Goive. All right. Well, there you go. There you have it. That's the end of this week in gaming. All 9.5 stories coming right at you. So thank you for sticking with us till the very end here. We appreciate you for it. And remember, you can find us over on Patreon, patreon.com/Neverlag. And we will catch you next time on Neverlag.
Bye, everyone.